Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a no run-through review for the Game Adventures Unlock series. This is the one where it has taken 3 games that actually exist and incorporate them into their Unlock escape room adventure kind of series. The games here, if you're not familiar with, are Ticket to Ride, Mysterium, and Pandemic. Not sure why that they picked those 3. Maybe just cause. I would love to know what got them to settle on those 3. Maybe it was just like the easiest to actually write a story and actually incorporate it as an escape room versus a lot of other ones. No idea, but those are the 3 you got. And it's actually pretty interesting because I thought that if you had played those 3 games, it would help with solving like the puzzles that are actually incorporated. No, not at all. Really what it is it is the theme of those games, and then they wrote a story within that. So like the Ticket to Ride one is like you're a reporter that's trying to figure out like get like a hot scoop where the heiress of like the railroad company has died, and like her relatives are doing some shady shit, so you have to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get on that railroad and get on that train and, you know, figure out what's going on. Maybe there's a juicy story. And so yeah, so speaking of that, let's talk about the Ticket to Ride one. It's not bad. It is the easiest of the 3, and you can definitely tell like the easiest ones, I don't know why, just sometimes seem to be the more fun because you don't have to like sit there and feel like an idiot because you're just not getting the left field clue they're trying to, you know, get you to solve. But in that one, they utilize the app a lot more. Well, really, the Unlock series as a whole has utilized the app just because it makes it a lot more fun versus just a glorified timer. But the device that they give you isn't super consistent. At least it wasn't for me, and I don't know if it's because I have like the newest phone. But like there was multiple times well, not multiple, but there was one specific time where there was one clue we needed to get, and the device was just not working, and I had to go into like the step-by-step guide thing to be like, hey, what? Okay, maybe I'm just missing something. What do I do? And then it's like, no, you need to do that, and I'm like, I did that. that's pretty cool. So the app's not working. And I mean, luckily the step-by-step guide exists, so you can continue instead of being like, well, I guess we can't play. So we were able to continue after that. But that was like the one time. And then there was one clue.
I didn't get that.
Shut up, Siri. There was one clue that just did not. It was pretty left field, and it also utilized the device. And I'm like, well, like you didn't tell us how to actively use that. You just told us we had it, and it's like, I don't know. It felt really kind of a stretch, but once you did that, once you solved that puzzle, it allowed you to understand how the device actually works. So then you're able to figure out like multiple puzzles after that. So it's like it's good that it showed you that, but it's like there should have been some lead up to kind of give you like the first step, you know. Overall, the story was decent. It was solid. There were some really smart clues. The very final puzzle was a lot of fun. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, but overall, like the Ticket to Ride one isn't bad. I think I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10, so 7.5. So then we go into the Mysterium one, which is the second hardest. It's 2 out of 3 difficulty. And the story for that is you are a psychic, of course, and there was a boy that was murdered in the manor, and so you're hired to go in and figure out what happened. Like the police hire you for that. And this one was really cool. I think out of all 3, it utilized the app the best. It flowed really well. The overall atmosphere of the Mysterium kind of theme really came out. I didn't feel that there were like a bunch of like left field ones. There might have been one, or maybe one I just like the one that I'm thinking of. Just I I was not. I guess I wasn't paying attention because I'm not gonna lie. Like I use this thing. Like it's here to be used. If you have no clue, there's no point being frustrated when you're playing these. So it's like, oh yeah, I don't really know. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, can't be mad at that. But yeah, so it's like let me see because I'm trying to think. There was, yeah, well. No, I think overall, like, it did a good job. Like I said, there was the one puzzle that I guess I just wasn't really paying attention, but it does kind of, lead you to solve that part of the puzzle. But overall, yeah, it is a whodunit. You walk into the manor, and you're greeted with a whole bunch of people. It's like a Clue kind of scenario where it's like, oh, look, it's the maid, it's the cook, it's the gardener, it's the professor, it's the relative, and you're like, all right, well, which one of you did it? And I think overall, like whenever it's using the machines in the app, it made sense. And there was a few, puzzles that it brought in that utilized like that psychic kind of shtick. And I thought that was fun. Like it did a really good job for the Mysterium one. That one out of the three, I'm not gonna lie, I think it probably is my favorite. And yeah, like so it's really cool because I was thinking, well, how are they gonna do the Mysterium theme? Because in Mysterium you get those Dixit style art cards, and yeah, it did a really good job in that. Now, they're not as vague. Like, you do get, like, visions, so that is meant to be, like, the one player in Mysterium who's handing you cards to be like, hey, let me point out, who did it, with what, and where. It does kind of do stuff like that, although not as cut and dry. But the clues that it gives you are not as just ambiguous, where it's like, well, this one card could mean 50 other things. It does, the visions are there, so it does kind of touch on that, but they're pretty straightforward. So I think overall it did a really good job. I think I'd give the Mysterium one an 8 out of 10. And then the Pandemic one. I hated it. I hated the Pandemic one. It was they did have some clever clues in here. And out of all of them, obviously Pandemic is the most complex one out of the box. The story... Oh, wow. I'm going to throw this watch away. The story that they put with the Pandemic one just does... I don't know. It does not feel like Pandemic. What it does feel more like is like Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Is kind of, or Season 1, like elements of Season 1, if you've played any of those. That's the closest the writing or the overall story and what you do in this Unlock adventure. That's what it most reminds me of. But the box that it's giving is base Pandemic, so you're thinking cure clues, or cure clues, yeah. Cure diseases. And you do that, but in such a roundabout way that I could not get on board. Like maybe slight spoilers, but what does it say? What does it say for here? You and your companions are part of an elite team fighting off 4 deadly diseases. Your team will travel the world to stop the diseases from spreading and develop the resources needed to discover cures. You will need to cooperate and make the best. Are these just telling me what Pandemic is? Okay, I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like Pandemic. Yeah, it's well, first of all, you can definitely tell it's the most complex because it has like 5 pages of clues. 1, 2, and there's 3 for Mysterium and 2 for Ticket to Ride. Yeah, okay, so slight spoilers for the Pandemic one, but I'm not going to give any specifics. Essentially, you start off doing a little bit of Pandemic. Like, you play as, like, of course, the characters, but they have, like, they're barely there. Like 1 to 2, there's 5 in the box. 2 of them are utilized pretty much the whole game. The other 3 are, like, for 1 puzzle to solve. And then it's like, okay, well, they're done. Never going to need them again. And So you do kind of start off, it's like, okay, I see where they're going. Obviously, we're not actually be playing Pandemic. Like, we have to do this CDC kind of stuff. So you set up the board and all that, and it's like, all right, neat. But then shortly after, this is very shortly after, you have to find patient 0. And then it becomes like this manhunt. And it's just like, oh, we're not even playing Pandemic anymore. We're doing this weird, like, search for the guy traveling across the globe, going to his apartment and solving some weird cryptic shit there. It felt like such a stretch that it's like, oh, are we playing an entirely different game? And then you do that for the majority of the game, honestly. And then at the very end, it's like, oh yeah, now we're doing Pandemic again. And the final clue, I keep saying clue, the final puzzle, you know, because every one of these has like this big one where it's like, hey, here's how you're pretty much going to solve the whole thing. I was like, oh man, I guess I forgot to major in chemistry or biology, because I have no idea what's going on. It just was such a stretch, and I understand the 3 difficulty ones like sometimes are a little out there. I'd have to really look back and see how many of the 3s I enjoyed, because I feel like most of them are pretty good. This one just, I hated it. Like, I really did not enjoy it. I couldn't get into the theme, couldn't get into the story, didn't like most of the clues. There were some, like I said, that like were pretty sharp on how you were like trying to like move from piece to piece. And it's like, oh, okay, and you feel smart whenever you when you solve those. It's like, oh, cool, yeah, we did it. But then it just throws this wrench in where there's just so many cards out on the table that you're like, okay, well, we got this, so we must have to solve it now. But it's like, no, you solve that, 30 minutes from now. You have to do all this other stuff. And then, oh, by the way, you remember that one card? The one card out of the, 60 in the deck? Yeah, go back to that now. Now is when you solve it. It's like, okay, like, I don't know. It was just not a good time. I'm trying to, and I can't really pinpoint out, like, besides the very final, maybe not the very, very final, but there's one part where you're actively trying to cure the diseases, like cure the world, and oh boy, was it just not great. Like, obviously I'm not gonna give any specifics, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, like, looking at some of these, it did a pretty good job. But yeah, it's just so strange of a theme that I really felt like that you weren't, like, it's like, yeah, you had the diseases cured, or you were curing the diseases, but it's like, okay, now push those to the side and go play Indiana Jones. It's like, wait, what? I don't get it. So yeah, overall, like, the Pandemic one I feel like is the weakest out of this entire box. I think I'd probably give it a 5. Like, out of, like, comparing it to these two, like, the Ticket to Ride one, like, I was on board. I felt that the story worked really well for that train theme, and even though, like, the one time the device didn't work, we were still able to move on. Mysterium 1 theme came out great, puzzles were great, I love whodunits, so that one really stuck with me. I can't really pinpoint any, like, one clue that was just like, wow, no, there's no one's getting that. But the Pandemic one had quite a few. Like I said, had some really solid ones that if you just kind of put a little effort in, you'd solve them, and those were kind of cool, but the story didn't fit. It felt like it was just too disjointed, and there were too many actual puzzles that were just, they were left field, or it was just like, there's no way in hell I'm ever gonna solve that. And that's not just me. I know multiple people who have played this and they hated the Pandemic one. So yeah, I mean, overall, like, so 5, like, if we were to average out the box, what did I say, 7.5 plus 5 plus 8, yeah, that would basically round this box up to a 7, and I think that's pretty accurate. So that's what I'm going to go with, the averages of these 3. I think this box is a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't recommend this, even though it is a 7 out of 10. There are a bunch of other 3, like, triple boxes that I would actually just recommend over this, because it's like, it's their own story. They're not trying to force other games and to have a theme around them that didn't exist. So, I don't know. This one kind of feels like a gimmick. I'd be surprised if they did, like, another box set where it's like, oh, now we're going to do... I can't even think of... Now we're going to do Spirit Island and Mansions of Madness and Azul. Like, it's like, oh, come on. Like, just... You guys ran out of ideas, I guess. But that's just me. So, the Unlocked Game Adventures box, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know what you thought of these 3 in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.